loud with that. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Monday, August 12th, 2024 deliberative meeting. We have present today all of our council, including myself and our solicitor. Mr. Solicitor, take it.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of council, members of the public. Welcome to the deliberative meeting for the City of Chester for Monday, August 12th, 2024. The following ordinances are to be voted on. First reading of Bill Number 4 entitled Sale of Defective Fire Extinguishers Prohibited. Repealing Article 1545 entitled Fire Control Measures in its entirety and enacting new Article 1545 entitled Sale of Defective Fire Extinguishers Prohibited to ensure any fire extinguisher sold, traded, loaned, or given away is in proper working order. First reading of Bill Number 5 entitled Fire Protection Equipment Contractor Licensing Requirement. Repealing Article 1551 entitled Licensing Fire Protection Installers and Contractors in its entirety and enacting new Article 1551 entitled Fire Protection Equipment Contractor Licensing Requirement to ensure any contractor that designs, installs, modifies, performs maintenance on, inspects, tests, or in any other way services fire protection equipment within city limits meets a minimum certification requirement for licensing. The following contract approvals. Resolution 84. Authorize approval for the execution of the Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful Affiliation Agreement with Pennsylvania Clean Waste, doing business as Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful, KPB, a Pennsylvania nonprofit corporation, empowering Pennsylvanians to keep our communities clean and beautiful. Resolution 85. To authorize approval for the implementation of a block captain program to help create safer neighborhoods throughout the city by establishing a 3-person committee of active, non-confrontational neighborhood residents to oversee and run the block captain program. Resolution 86. To authorize the installation of handicap parking zones in the 3300 block of Carter Lane, the 400 block of Yarnell Street, and in the 2600 block of Madison Street. Resolution 87. To authorize approval for the installation of an honorary street sign to acknowledge the service and dedication of Bishop Samuel W. Ellis along the portion of Pusey Street between 3rd Street and 5th Street. Resolution 88. To authorize approval for the appointment of Michelle Jackson as a member of the City Chester Zoning Hearing Board to fill the unexpired term of Patricia Worrell, term to expire December 31st, 2024. That would conclude the list for today.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Council, are there any questions or comments?
I do have a question about the contract approvals, R84. Is there any other information that we, can we see the agreement with PA Clean Waste?
Do we have an agreement?
We do. Justin, you and I went over that agreement. Do you want to enumerate the details for Councilwoman?
Yes, so we do have an agreement. It's just the standard agreement that Keep PA Beautiful has with any of their affiliates. I think Janelle does have a copy for the packet. I had run it by Solicitor Schuster prior to having it put on the agenda. But it's pretty straightforward. There is a small fee annually. There's a one-time fee of like $250 to join as an affiliate. There's an annual $100 fee to just keep the affiliation. And some of the benefits that this would provide is that every quarter, the affiliate, which would be the City of Chester, can apply for microgrants of up to $500 every quarter for things like materials like trash bags or gloves or vests, things like that, signage, anything like that they might need for doing cleanups and running their program. And then from our end, beyond the $100 annual affiliation, what they ask for from the affiliate side is just some annual reporting about like the cleanups that you did, you know, how many people were involved, how much was cleaned up, like that kind of thing. So the idea here is that we would sort of marry that with the block captain program, and then the block captain committee could be responsible for, you know, kind of tracking data and reporting out to Keep PA Beautiful.
Are we able to see the agreement?
Yeah, I can make I didn't have copies. I wasn't sure what was in your packet, but I can show you this to you now.
Well, you
and
can
I can
send it
also
to
make,
me
yeah,
through
I can do
email.
that
I
as
like
well.
to read over it.
Okay.
So I can make myself familiar with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And this is something that the city had been involved with some years ago. We were members of Keep America Beautiful and also Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful. So we had a wonderful relationship, and they were very supportive in terms of our cleanups and other items that we would need, you know, in keeping our city beautiful. So it's a wonderful program. I too would like to see the contract,
Okay.
but I'm already familiar with it, and it's a great program and something that I think we should take advantage of.
Okay. Yeah, I can forward the full packet to all of you to review. And I should mention, as you're saying, Keep PA Beautiful is under the National Keep America Beautiful. There is a Keep Delco Beautiful. I talked with their representative, and they said it would be better if the city had its own direct affiliation instead of going through the county, because that way we just get more
Right.
direct benefits from them. And in the city of Chester, I think it's Bonita Taylor has an affiliation with her group for, my mind's blanking. What park do they work with?
The Sun Village.
Yeah, Sun
Yes.
Village Park. So they have a mini affiliation there. This would be for the whole city of Chester.
Right, and we had all worked together previously, and Bonita did a wonderful job over in Sun Village. And I think they had a garden, they had cleaned up the playground area, you know, so it was great, and they were very much supported by Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful.
Thank you for that information, Justin. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
I know there was a few meetings in reference to the block captains and the program. Do you guys have like a layout of how that's going to operate, or what that whole program looks like?
Just like how are they selected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can try to answer, and if Mayor Roots wants to add to the idea, but what's on the agenda for today is establishing a 3-person committee of residents, and those 3 residents would sort of establish and run the block captain program. So what we'll do ideally on this council meeting is just establish that there is a committee. Then the same way that people applied to be you know, on boards and committees, they could apply to be one of the 3 members of this block captain committee. Then they could get together, those 3 as a committee, and sort of come up with some of the, you know, policies and procedures and programs in partnership with, you know, City Hall. So I think our overall vision, though, for the block captain program is that it would primarily be focused on cleaning up, like leading cleanup efforts across the city. So a block captain would gather some of their neighbors. They'd be given some, you know, again, like gloves, trash bags, things like that. And we would do regular cleanups all at the same time across the city, or maybe hit different parts of the city. Again, the committee can kind of decide the best way to do this. But primarily the goal would be to do more citywide, broad cleanups and empowering residents to get their neighbors involved with that. The other kind of part 2 that we were hoping block captains could be responsible for is just helping with communication, sort of 2-way communication. So if City Hall, you know, we know of certain events or things that we hope residents know about, or, you know, services or whatever, we could communicate that out to block captains to share with their neighbors, maybe give them flyers or whatever to distribute. And similarly, if they're hearing about certain concerns or issues on their block or their neighborhood, they could feed that back up, through block captains and the block captain committee to mayor and council to be aware of. So that's a very high level, general overview. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Well, I have a question as it regards to the language here when it says three-person committee of active, non-confrontational neighborhood residents. How do we figure out who's non-confrontational when everyone, especially if they're advocating, they may be confrontational. How are we going to select people? I just need to know what does it look like?
Yeah, I guess I didn't particularly put that language in there, but I think the idea is that, we would hold block captains and committee members accountable to, have a certain standard of
So when you say
conduct.
non-confrontational, like, are they just supposed to say yes to everything? Or are they supposed to say no to everything? I don't understand.
I think the intention there may have more been like, you can't be like fighting with your neighbors and just,
But if you're passionate about an issue, as many of people in the community are, it could be seen as confrontational when in fact it may not be.
Or an advocate, the person can be an advocate, I mean, it depends on the demeanor of the person, I would think, and someone who has a strong advocacy and a high regard for the community,
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
again,
maybe you want to take that word out, non-confrontational.
Yeah. Again, I think the idea is that we hope that whoever is on the block captain committee and whoever's a block captain, and the committee could sort of decide, like, what are some of our code of conduct or whatever. Maybe if we have this ethics policy in place, maybe some of that would apply. I'm not sure. But I think generally the idea is we want block captains to be exemplary, citizens of Chester who are representing and leading well in the city. So I think that's the intention there.
Yeah, my only question would be, I guess, a follow-up with Councilman West said, like, what would necessarily be the criteria going into selecting the three-people committee as well as the block captains? Yeah, because, you could be a great neighbor, but for example, you could be a great neighbor, but you might illegally, smoke marijuana or something like that without a recreational card or going through the proper channels. So does that necessarily make you a great resident or a great leader for your block or your community? You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
would be interested to know, like, what was the selection process in selecting the committee?
Yeah, so again, I think the idea for the block captain committee, so the committee of three that would kind of lead this program, will be selected the same way that you as council select and approve any board members. So you guys will decide, who is leading this block captain program, and then they can be responsible for sort of appointing and managing residents who are
Right.
block captains, so to speak. Yeah.
And is there documentation on how this is structured? The block the block captain program? Is there any information on it? When it starts, when it ends, how long they're going to be on this committee, things of that nature? Is there any documentation on how the program is going to be ran?
So do you mean for the
Block,
three-person committee?
yes.
I think what's on this agenda is for a three-person committee with 3-year staggered terms. So every year you would appoint, a new member of the committee, moving forward after we appoint the initial starting 3 this year. And again, I think we want this to be very much, the idea here is that it would be led by and done in partnership with residents who are on this committee. So we didn't really nail down too many details because we wanted to empower the 3-person committee that you as council would appoint, empower them to help design and craft the program moving forward.
I just think some residents may want to know what the block captain program is. you know, and we should be able to provide that information to them, so that if there are interested parties, they could say, okay, you know, this, I fit this description and I want to join. So if that is something that we can get, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in general for block captains who would join the program, one of my thoughts was, again, in partnership with whoever the committee would be, we could come up with sort of some sort of application or form or something that anyone who's interested, any residents who are interested in being a block captain, they could fill out this form, submit it, and then that could be reviewed by, you know, the committee. As part of that, we could explain what the program is.
Right, I was going to say, when
Yeah.
they're getting that, picking up the application, will there be information attached to it?
Yeah.
So-
And again, I think my thought was I didn't want to create the whole program and then we appoint people to like lead it. I think we were more thinking, here's kind of what we're thinking. Let's appoint a committee of 3 people to then run with that. You know, you guys come up with what this looks like, and we'll craft it together.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, well, Justin, you can stay because you probably can answer these questions too. For Resolution 88, can we just get a copy of, am I saying it right, Michelle Jackson? Michael? Michelle Jackson, can you just get a copy of the same thing we get for the rest of the zoning or any of the boards for the city of Chester? I guess a copy of the resume, quick bio, whatever, I guess the standard process.
Yeah, I can forward her application packet to you.
Thanks.
And my question, since you brought up R88, can she be a part of the zoning board and work for Delcor?
Yes.
She can?
Thanks.
Anything else, council?
I don't have anything on the agenda, but finance, Mr. Richard, I would like to know about this new proposed budget. I know that you'll be presenting to council, I'm not sure when, but I heard some chatter about it earlier. And so I just wanted to get some information if I could. And also, I know we're going to add some money to the salaries of certain employees in certain positions, but I want to know, how are we able to afford that if the receiver has been saying next year we'll be hitting a $15 million cliff? I want to know how we'll be able to afford a new budget or an
right.
amended budget.
Before you answer, let's just deal with our agenda items. Is there anything on the agenda that anyone out here would like to comment on or have questions on? Okay,
So speaking to that question.
speaking to the
and-
mic, you gotta get real close to that thing, we can't hear you. There you go.
Speaking to that question, and the 3 council members who were part of the budget committee can fill in or correct me if I misstate anything. But the essence of it is there are a number of changes that are pluses, minuses, and changes that net out to approximately a $365,000 net cost if they go retroactive to January 1. We know that some of them did and did not.
January 1 or July 1?
January 1. I didn't have specific start dates, so I went to the budgeted amount was for a 12-month period, so I did the analysis comparing it to a 12-month period. So the net changes would have, including benefits, approximately $365,000 cost for a full year in 2024. There are approximately 55 vacancies that have been carried since the beginning of the year. That's really where the funding is coming from.
The 55 vacancies is where the money's coming from?
I'm sorry.
The 55 vacancies are where the money's coming from?
Basically, yes. There are a number of plus minuses within the budget, but that's the easiest point of reference with compensation.
Okay, so 55 vacancies in the budget, and we're going to use that money to pay them these new salaries. Now, once we fill those positions for next year, then what happens?
Well, I would suggest that the presumption that we're going to fill all 55 of them moving forward every year has to be looked at. We don't know what the staffing is going to be like for next year, whether all 55 are going to be required.
So then how can you come up with these salaries if you don't know?
Well, we're going to go through the 2025 budget process, and that's where we will vet each of the department's projections and what they want for staffing, and decisions will be made as to what the staffing should be, and were the 55 vacancies really vacancies, or was it over projected? And we really aren't or don't need to have 55 more staff. That whole process is part of the 60-some, $70 million process for 2025. What we're doing in this process with this budget is fixing known errors, adjustments in the budget, and addressing those changes from roughly 9 positions that were deleted, 11 positions that were added, and there were 3 that were transferred from a budgeted position to a contract. And then there's 45 plus minus positions that the salaries that were budgeted were not what they were actual. People got hired at lower rates than what was budgeted. Presumably the opposite happened. People got hired at rates higher than what was budgeted. And then there's just pure corrections in the total that was presented to the committee. Is that a fair representation of what we worked through today?
I would say so.
Okay, so
And so if this amended budget is passed, we're going to pay them retroactive from January 1st of this year up until now. Is that correct?
no, that's, and I apologize for not being clear about that. This is, in some regards, an academic process. The amount that was in the budget that was allotted for that position isn't what the person's getting paid. We're not changing the people's pay unilaterally back to January 1st for all of those adjustments. There are some of them that are actual differences that are being increased because they're in a different role, and there's some of them that are an academic process that the amount that was put into the budget wasn't what they're actually being paid.
So they could be being paid more or less.
More or less, and there are individuals that agreed to come on board at less than what was budgeted. So it cuts all different ways for 60-some people getting it right so that the budget is more accurate.
And when are you presenting all of this to council, to all of council?
The conversation is the legal's working through whether it's going to be for this Wednesday or subsequent.
It's not going to be this Wednesday. I thought we just said that.
Oh, okay, all right.
There's a process, and there's ordinances that have to be amended. We're not going to do it by resolution as suggested. So we can take care of the legal mechanics. You guys have to figure out the numbers.
Yeah. So
It still don't answer my question. The question is, when are you going to present this to all of council so that we're all on the same page and we have the information that was presented to the budget committee?
based on the process, whenever legal decides that it can be presented to full council, that's when I would presume we're going to present it to full council.
And Councilman, part of the conversation, excuse me, and part of the conversation earlier was some due diligence done on council members' end. I'm gonna specifically say myself, where I did my own research and analysis on how much some of these positions are getting paid based off the levels of experience and education. And we, Mr. Troutman, myself, and whoever else wants to be a part of that meeting are going to go over all the numbers to see how competitive or non-competitive the city of Chester is being. For a perfect example, I'm going to use the police department. Commissioner Gretzky has also often referred that the city of Chester does not have enough money to pay police officers to compete with other municipalities. That could also go to the same thing for some of the jobs we have here in City Hall. Some people might be overqualified and not getting paid the money that they deserve, and some people might be underqualified and getting paid too much money. So those are conversations that we're also going to have before this presentation happens, if you all would like to be a part of that conversation. That's just something that I requested from Mr. Troutman, as well as our
Interim chief of staff.
Yeah, chief of staff. I'm sorry.
And I get that, and I would like to see some people, get paid. And I don't want to take any money out of anybody's pocket, but I want to make sure that when I'm voting for this, I have enough information to make a educated decision based off of the facts and based off of information that I see. And I'm a visual, so I need to be able to see these numbers. I need to be able to see the current salaries, which versus the proposed salary, and how that this is going to affect the city's current budget, whether it is or it's not, and also make sure that we can afford it, especially with this $15 million cliff that we're expected to hit next year. So I just, need to be able to see this information sooner rather than later. But I'll allow you guys to do your due diligence and figure out those ordinances, those legal, what you guys need to do legally, so that way we can get the proper information to all of council, not just the Budget and Finance Committee, but all of council have this information so we can make an informed decision when it's time to vote on this amended budget. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
All right. Any other comments? Anybody think of anything they wanted to share? Add? Council, we good? This meeting's adjourned.